Hallo liebe Deutschlerner, ich bin Johannes von Your German Teacher. Do you actually know how to address people in your own family members, who are older than you? Is it formal or informal? There are so many small things in German language that might be different to your own language. So here are 10 common misunderstandings, mistakes, or just confusions that language learners struggle with when they start to learn German, or even if they learn for a longer time. Hier ist Nummer 1. Leben und wohnen. Which of those words do I have to use in which situation? This is the question that so many students actually have had in our comment section of this YouTube channel here. And yes, in most situations, easy to answer. Both are fine. For example, like this. Er lebt oder er wohnt in Berlin. Er lebt, wohnt in Berlin. Both is totally fine. Of course, if you want to say he is alive, then you would use leben. But that's not the question here. So now here's a sentence in which you have to use wohnen instead of leben. Er wohnt in der Parkstraße 36. Er wohnt in der Parkstraße 36. In this sentence here, you give a detailed address. And this means wohnen suits better into this sentence, is better for this sentence. But basically in all other situations, in most other situations, leben und wohnen are both fine. Nummer 2. This sentence here. Meine Familie sind groß. We can understand this confusion because in British English, for example, I think it's British English, there is actually family used in plural when you conjugate the verb. In German, unfortunately, it is not. Although a family has more than one person, like 3 for example, this family as a group is singular, die Familie. Only if you have like 2 different families, 2 groups of people, then you have plural. And this is die Familien. Now here's one more thing about this before I move on to an example. The pronunciation. It's not die Familie. This is also often pronounced wrong. It is die Familie. Die Familie. And in plural, Familien. Familien. Now here are 2 example sentences. One for singular at first. Die Familie ist nicht groß. Die Familie ist nicht groß. There's only one family. This family has 3 family members, but we use singular because it's one family, one group of people. Die Familien sind beide nicht groß. Die Familien sind beide nicht groß. So now we have 2 families, 2 groups. Both families have 3 family members. And here we have to use plural to conjugate for the conjugation of the verb. We continue with the family. In der Familie, there's often this question. Do I have to use sie or du when I speak to someone who is older in my family? And this is super easy to answer. Within your family, it does not matter who you talk to. You always will talk to this person informal. It's always du. Of course, it's not only du. It's dich, dir, and also for plural, ihr, euch, and for dative also euch. So all those cases, you will just use the informal way to address those people. Let me show you some example sentences. Papa, bist du heute Mittag zu Hause? Papa, bist du heute Mittag zu Hause? Oder Onkel Willi, kann ich dich heute besuchen? Onkel Willi, kann ich dich heute besuchen? And here you see something which is also very common in German families. the kids, they address the older family members, even if they're like further away, like an uncle or an aunt, with the given name. And they put uncle or auntie, Tante, before this given name, like Onkel Willi. That's very common in German. Third sentence. Papa, Mama, spielt ihr mit mir Karten? Papa, Mama, spielt ihr mit mir Karten? So you can see, in all of those sentences here, this kid, this child, just uses the informal way to address older family members. There's another confusion that is related to family. Ich habe Geschwister. In this sentence, there is a tiny, tiny mistake. The word Geschwister is not written with E. It's Geschwister with an E. And it means siblings. This mistake happens because a lot of language learners, they just relate this word to this one here, die Schwester, which means sister. And this one is actually written with E, but Geschwister with an E. There's a bit more about this word, Geschwister. We always use it in plural. There is a singular form, but no one ever uses this word in singular. For example, in this sentence here, these three here are siblings. Sie sind Geschwister. If someone asks you, hast du Geschwister? Of course, you can just answer, ich habe 2 Geschwister. But this will have a follow-up question, most likely. So you will still have to answer, ich habe eine Schwester und einen Bruder. But what if you only have one sister or one brother? Can you still answer with, ich habe Geschwister? Technically, you kind of can, but I think it's much easier to just answer right away like, ich habe eine Schwester. Oder ich habe einen Bruder. That's much more common. So, we are done with the family. The next mistake, Nummer 5, is very common for English mother tongues. Ich bin in 1954 geboren. In this sentence, there is one word too much. There's one word that does not belong there. In. When we talk about annual figures, year dates, in German, we do not add in. That's wrong. The sentence should sound like this. Ich bin 1954 geboren. Ich bin 1954 geboren. If you want to add, you can im Jahr. Ich bin im Jahr 1954 geboren. That's also correct. Er wird 2024 eine Weltreise machen. Er wird 2024 eine Weltreise machen. So here it's also kind of different to English. It's not 2024, 2024. Normally it's 2024. Nummer 6. You want to tell your German friend that you have to work today, but you are off tomorrow. Most likely your sentence will look like this one here. Heute muss ich arbeiten, aber morgen bin ich frei. Unfortunately, this sentence here, the second one, is not correct. You have to use another verb. It needs to be habe. Heute muss ich arbeiten, aber morgen habe ich frei. This is how you tell someone that you are off work or you don't need to go to school or something like that. When someone uses sein in combination with frei, this is kind of a different story. For example, this guy here. He was in jail for some time and he just got out. He could say something like this. Ich bin endlich wieder frei. Ich bin endlich wieder frei. Of course, it's not necessarily from jail, free from jail. It also can be like a bad relationship or whatever, something like this. Hier kommt Nummer 7. And this mistake, this problem, you will not easily get rid of if you don't stop translating word by word from English to German. Maybe I will fly to London. Vielleicht ich fliege nach London. This sentence structure is not a German sentence structure. It's wrong. Because in German there is this golden rule, the rule of rules. The conjugated verb in a main clause needs to be in second position. So we need to place fliegen in between vielleicht and ich. Vielleicht fliege ich nach London. Or you change it. Ich fliege vielleicht nach London. Both sentences are correct. Both positions of the adverb vielleicht are correct. And this positioning not only applies to the adverb vielleicht, it applies to any adverb. For example, wahrscheinlich or morgen. Kommen wir zu einem anderen Adverb. Here is another adverb and a translation error again. A lot of people think eventuell means eventually in English because it looks almost similar. But it doesn't mean eventually. It's a false friend. Eventuell means maybe. So it has the same meaning like the adverb in number 7, vielleicht. And here is an example sentence. Eventuell wird ein Künstler. Eventuell wird ein Künstler. You can see that the rule that I just told you about applies also for this adverb. Nummer 9. And this is a mistake we also often read in comments, for example, on YouTube. Vielen Dank, Herr. Thank you, sir. Herr, ich habe eine Frage. Sir, Mister, I have a question. Herr Johannes, ich habe eine Frage. Mr. Johannes, I have a question. The problem here is that you cannot directly address someone with Herr if you don't know this person's family name. If you know the family name, then use it. Vielen Dank, Herr Meier. Herr Meier, ich habe eine Frage. If you don't know the family name, for the first sentence, you just also don't use Herr. Vielen Dank. But for the second one, ich habe eine Frage. I recommend to use some nice words before, to make sure that you get an answer to your question. Entschuldigen Sie, ich habe eine Frage. Oder, Entschuldigung, ich habe eine Frage. Like this, it's much more polite. Und hier ist Nummer 10, which is a big problem. Actually, not the students or language learners problem. It's more like a dictionary problem. When you type in helpful in English, there are normally 2 words that pop up. And the first one is hilfreich, the second one hilfsbereit. What most people do, they just use the first one to write their sentence. Peter ist immer hilfreich. Peter ist immer hilfreich. What they want to say is Peter is always willing to help. But what they did is they made Peter a tool to reach their own goals. So this is kind of a negative meaning. To make it perfectly clear, hilfreich is used for things, not for people, unless you want to be mean. Hilfsbereit, this is the word that you use for a person that is willing to help. And to memorize this, it's easier to just memorize hilfreich as helpful and hilfsbereit, willing to help. I hope you learned something, and maybe next time, if you made one of those mistakes, you don't do them again. Das war's von mir. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Bleibt gesund, halt die Ohren steif. Bis dann. Tschüss.